Putin's mouthpiece lashed out after the US announced plan to send $5.4 million in seized Russian oligarch funds to Ukrainian veterans.
Here's a summary of the article.
The Kremlin cried foul this week after the US announced plans to give millions of dollars in seized Russian oligarch assets to Ukrainian military veterans. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken announced the venture during his visit to Kyiv on Wednesday, saying the US would transfer to Ukraine $5.4 million in assets that once belonged to Russia's powerful oligarchs. We consider all cases tied to the blocking, seizure, or other retention of any funds related to state, private, or mixed property of the Russian Federation abroad to be illegal acts, Peskov told reporters on Thursday. The US State Department did not offer specific details about whose assets would be transferred to Ukraine, but the $5.4 million figure is the exact amount that a US judge ordered seized from Russian oligarch Konstantin Malofeyev earlier this year, the Daily Beast reported. US authorities also alleged Malofeyev illegally conspired with former Fox News director Jack Hannock to transfer a $10 million Texas-based bank investment to his associate in Greece. The Justice Department charged Malofeyev with sanctions evasion in April 2022, the first of its kind since Russia invaded Ukraine, and a US judge ruled in February 2023 that US prosecutors could confiscate $5.4 million belonging to Malofeyev as a first step to transferring those funds to Ukraine. The news that millions of dollars would be headed to Ukraine's military veterans came alongside Blinken's pledge of $665.5 million in new military and civilian aid to Ukraine this week.
This post received a score of 16,000, with an upvote ratio of 95%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
$5.4 million is a tiny amount of money. What's the real story here? It sets a precedent for the future. It also sends a signal to the Russian oligarchs that if their plan is to sit on the sidelines and collect their cash at the end of the war, that's not going to work out.
Indeed. So those oligarchs no longer have a free pass for their aid of the war.
It is more than that. It shows the US will go after Russian money used to buy off US officials. That pressures US citizens to avoid Russian bribes, as if they don't, there's a good chance they will lose it all to the US government. And that's the real reason Russia is mad. It slices the throats of all their covert influence operations and likely more than a few espionage efforts.
The right have an insane number of Russian contacts. We had to know the Russians were using the corruption of the GOP to gain power.
Had to know. GOP politicians were basically shouting, "Yeah, we're Putin's puppets. What the fuck are you going to do about it?" on national TV, and nothing was ever done.
That was obvious from the UK, while avoiding lots of US media.
Oh, it was obvious to everyone in the US with a room temperature IQ as well, have no doubt. This is the shit they pull while we're at work, man. Maybe if we weren't working 60 hours a week, more of us would pay attention.
Maybe if we weren't working 60 hours a week, more of us would pay attention? Considering the vast majority of Americans don't work 60 hours a week, it's not likely. Maybe if someone puts it in a TikTok video with cutesy graphics or something.
For every day that Russia creeps around in a sovereign nation, do something like this. Depleted uranium, oligarch money. What's next? Cause this is excellent.
Hopefully the UN reversing their decision about the war not meeting the criteria of genocide.
UN has to be very careful with what they call a genocide. Otherwise many, respectable, UN countries will be found to have committed genocide in their recent past.
I'm okay with this. Let's get the war crimes rollin'.
The UN exists based on the member states' acceptance of it. Just like the one China is currently trying to establish. International politics is way too complex to act like in an utopian dream. Pragmatism is essential. TLDR, choose your battles wisely, instead of lashing out against all provocations.
I see what you are saying, but it feels the UN is getting near the end of its usefulness. If they don't allow any reforms or changes, it'll go the way of the League of Nations. Maybe all that bickering is better than no communication, but I'm not sure. If it can't evolve, change or adapt to changing nation states as power blocks, then eventually there'll be no point to it all.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.